fans, it's the professor, and we've got the breakdown. It was a tough weekend to be a Hoosier. We're going to talk IU basketball versus Illinois. We're going to talk Indiana baseball recap. We're going to talk ISU baseball recap. So let's get into it. So we'll start off with Indiana basketball. As noted in my preview for it, unfortunately, all of the pitfalls were not avoided, and Coach DeVries had no answer for Illinois' height and athleticism on the paint, at the perimeter, and it showed. We look at the overall score. We got beat by 20. It was 51-71, and that's a courtesy 20 because it could have been worse. Going into halftime, 31-38, it looked like it could be a game. Now, even at that point, we were showing some fractures when it comes to both the starters and their ability to shoot outside of Wilkerson and points in the paint and offensive rebounds. I mean, we were just getting absolutely murdered in the paint when it came to the boards. This led to a ton of Illinois second chance points, which drove up the score. And as I threaded the needle last time, we don't get those boards. They get the easy, layup or bunny hop 2 points. It puts pressure on our shooters because we're behind. They take bad shots, and that leads to a terrible 3-point or field goal percentage. So, when we look at the team stats, field goal percentage went up, only went down in the second half for sure. But what really hurt were our threes. We were 6 for 24, and I think two of those came in the second half. We were in the second half of the game and down, and 13 minutes had expired, and Indiana had scored 12 total points in the second half in 13 minutes. Again, reminiscent of the cold streak against Louisville, the cold streak against, pick a team. It seems to happen with this team, and we just have no answers for it. And ultimately, we lose those games. Total rebounds, 22 IU, 36 Illinois. That's where the game was won and lost. And you look at the construct of Illinois' team, 2 7-footers. Boom, right there. There's 2 guys that are taller than our tallest guy. We look at, turnovers. Illinois had 2 turnovers. That's an elite program right now. That's a team playing good ball at home, good ball protection, making good decisions, and we're not harassed at all by in this case, an Indiana defense. Indiana's still at 8. I like it. It continues to be less than double digits, right? But you don't win the Big Ten with 8 turnovers averaging per game. Points in the paint, 24-40. You can guess which team had 40 points there. And overall, we were 20 of 49 when it comes to field goals, so not the greatest. Tucker DeVries with 13 points. Sam Alexis with only 8 rebounds led the team. He had 11 points, so not a terrible game. Would have liked to see, definitely more rebounds out of him. But as I said, that was what won the game for Illinois. Best player of the game, obviously Lamar Wilkerson with 21 points. An interesting couple of stats. We look at Nick Dorn starting 33 minutes. He had 1 point. So Nick Dorn was obviously off for the evening, not hitting anything, and driving up a majority of those missed threes to drive up our missed field goal percentage and drive up our missed 3-point percentage. Connor Enright, 35 minutes, 0 points. That's a guard with 0 points in a regulation basketball game in college. Unacceptable. I mean, it's absolutely unacceptable. Reed Bailey got 12 minutes. Josiah Miles got 12 minutes. Josiah Miles had 3 points, which was 3 more points than the starting point guard. Rest of the bench were just brought in for, last time out, 1 minute, 2 minutes, because we were getting absolutely murdered. So, what does it all mean? Well, we are who we thought we were. Terrible game, executed poorly, no adaptation. We fell right into the traps. It was completely anticipated and completely called by yours truly. What do we have coming up? Doesn't get any easier, kids. Indiana at Purdue. Indiana at number 7 Purdue this time. Probably going to be a murdering, and when we look at, Purdue's outside shooting strength with their point guard play, they do have a size advantage still over Indiana. It's going to be the same story, different day. It's going to be another hard road game in the Big Ten Conference. Indiana's not equipped this year to really win on the road against a Big Ten opponent, especially a ranked Big Ten opponent. So I anticipate, easily double-digit defeat, probably 20 points or more, very similar to the Illinois game. I think that, I hope that we shoot a little bit better. Nick Dorn has a lot of room to improve with only having 1 point for the entire game, and Connor Enright has a lot of room to improve with 0 points. So I do hope that the shooting, increases from the last game, but I don't anticipate it's going to be any easier on the on an away court rival game. We're averaging 8 to double-digit turnovers. The last 2 games we've lost have not been pretty, right? And so I just don't see. I just don't see us winning, and it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough to watch, but hey, that's why we do it. So go IU. Following that, we have Northwestern at Indiana. Another ranked Michigan State game at Indiana, and Minnesota at Indiana. So hopefully over this next stretch of 4 games, we can go 2 for 2, and continue to at least maintain our shot at a bubble team, and increase our ranking in the Big Ten tournament to hopefully get an upset ranked win there, where I think is probably our next chance to get a ranked win. So, tough loss for IU, completely anticipated. They got to pick up the boards. They got to pick up the turnovers. And if the shooting's cold, you got to rotate guys in, because keeping a guy in for 35 minutes, coach, and him scoring 1 point, and another guy staying in for 33 minutes and scoring 0 points is not the way you win in the Big Ten. It is just not the way you win in the Big Ten. So we're going to go ahead and move over to Indiana baseball. And let me tell you my Indiana baseball story. So 2002 was my freshman year. I was at Briscoe, and during that year, because of my love of baseball, A, I lived with the football team. B, I was able to watch from the 11th floor where I lived every baseball game of the season for free. Not that they were charging at the time, but Indiana baseball, had been annually pretty terrible. The field is now an intramural field, and it was about an intramural field then. And I would say it was somewhere between, like, maybe the quality of a public park used for softball on the weekends and a good high school Division V field, which meant it was absolutely terrible. I mean, there was no grass. There was like rocks in the outfield. I don't know how they played baseball there, to be completely honest with you. It was atrocious. But anyway, I started watching IU baseball in 2002 and following it. And then coming up through college with a school public health major, a lot of the guys on the different teams were in different programs or adjacent programs, so sports med, kinesiology, stuff like that. So we got to know each other, which was cool and fun, and it helped me to follow the teams for a couple of years and going on. And then we had, Tracy Smith, after coaching for quite a while, was able to recruit and have some breakout seasons, going up through to the 2012s, 2013s, and you're talking the Kyle Schwarber era, which was awesome. The baseball field, finally gets an upgrade to Bart Kaufman. Beautiful field. You got to see where Schwarber was hitting, home runs his final year there at Kaufman. The complex is nice. It starts bringing in more money, more recruiting. The team's able to step up, and we're actually able to compete in conference against your Michigans, who are annually pretty much one of the better Big Ten baseball teams, but be able to not just compete, but win. With that success, Tracy Smith goes on to go to Arizona State and is now at the school I just talked about, University of Michigan. So, we face him every year, which was IU's, best coach in the modern era. And it's kind of sad to see that. I really wish that we could have kept him. Since then, we've had Jeff Mercer, and this is the reason why I wanted to talk this story up to Jeff Mercer and this weekend's baseball. If I'd had time, I would have done an IU baseball preview of Indiana at Chapel Hill, number 11 ranked Chapel Hill, and just a fun stat. I would have told you IU's going to win or going to lose Friday night, guaranteed. We might lose Saturday, and we'll probably win Sunday. And why I say that is because obviously, we're going to pitch our aces. Saturday is about a 50% go back or forth, and Sunday, that if we've lost 2 games already, that's usually the game that we'll try to go all out and expend the bullpen and at least come away with 1 win. Coach Mercer, since his freshman season, 2019, has not won an opening day game. And, I hate being right about IU sports losing because he did not win Friday's opening match. So we look at Friday's opening match. I'm not going to go in deep into the stats, but it was unfortunate. We were completely outclassed when it came, to pretty much every aspect of the game. The pitcher, where game 1 went south, and Mercer, I've watched Mercer enough at this point. I'm not a Mercer fan. I hoped that he was going to be great, but he's just not the guy. Good, very decent recruiter. Oh, yeah, accolades where accolades are due. Very decent recruiter. He somehow manages to flip our entire baseball team over year after year. So with IU baseball, there are very few returning athletes year after year, and very many entirely new, rotations, bullpen, and half of the position players. So, good on him for that. The problem is he can't coach in game to save his life, and that came down to Friday's game. So we sit with a tie ball game. Starting pitcher had not allowed a run through 5. He gets pulled out, and we immediately give up 3 runs, and it was all downhill from there. North Carolina's offense opens up against a series of IU pitchers. IU pitchers look like they've never pitched in college baseball before, and the final result is a 9-4 loss. IU. It was basically a 50-50 game going into the 5th. We pull our starter, who's keeping it competitive and in game for whatever reason, whether it be the matchup, whether it be, it's definitely not an injury, but something that Coach saw. He pulls his starter, and that's the ball game. It was over at that point. Nothing else really to say on that one. Very disappointing. I knew pretty much the game was over as soon as those 3 runs scored. Going on to Saturday, the unfortunate thing was Saturday. It had been scheduled for a 3-day, 3-game weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But there was pending inclement weather on Sunday, so they changed it to a doubleheader on Saturday. And by doing that, it forces game one to be a run rule game. Why would I have to bring that up, right? Well, we look at Saturday's ball game, and I I'd like to say that we were the reason why that we won and we run ruled North Carolina, but that is not the case. So we had a semi-competitive game going into really through the fourth inning again, and we had started Bergman and looked okay. And we pull our starter again, fifth inning, 3 runs. So it's at that point 4-1. We go into the sixth. We change pitchers again. IU does score 1 run, so then it's 2-4. We give up 6 runs. Game over. They score 6. They score freaking 2 in the seventh, 2 to freaking 10 or 2-12. Run ruled. Opening weekend run ruled. So the hits keep coming, though. So let's talk probably the most disappointing loss of the weekend. Both pretty much, up to this point, you have 2 games that had inflection points that were, one, completely coach-induced. The second, the pitching just wasn't there. And like not there in a that's an understatement, like non-existent. And the really weird thing was, it was even commented by the IU announcer, we brought a robust amount of bullpen guys with us. I think he said that there were like 20 just pitchers just hanging out in the warm-up area. So it's not a lack of arms, which tells me something's going on. Now I do know that there is a new pitching coach. I haven't looked into his background yet, but there's a new pitching coach for IU this season. There you go. We lost on pitching 2 games now. So we go to Friday's game. Sunday. Second game of Saturday, which would have been Sunday's game. IU winning. It was the game I thought that we had the best chance of winning. Especially when you've lost the first 2, you kind of move some things around. You pull up maybe some guys, you didn't think you were going to have to pitch, but you want to pitch and give them some more time off, etc. Anyway, we're up 3-1 going into the bottom of the 9th. And we have an error on the second baseman. You can watch the video. Allows a single into a double. UNC ends up scoring 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th, ties it, takes it to extras, and IU loses in 11. So Indiana baseball goes 0-3 on opening weekend on the road. Now, again, I'm not shocked we lost. I'm shocked we lost all 3. I figured coming out of a road ranked weekend, would have loved to win 2 out of 3. Realistically, I thought 1 out of 3. So we're immediately starting the season, under 500. I'm seeing the exact same mistakes that Mercer made last year, and I'm seeing a team that with position players that are making multiple errors per game that should not be starting or continuing to play. So I use averaging 2 errors per game right now, which is terrible. So, what can I say strategy-wise overall? Well, Mercer's hiring coming in 2019, and IU coming off of pretty decent rosters, number one, and then also coming off of being contenders in conference, conference tournaments and being contenders in college playoffs, almost every other year or every year. And his philosophy is to start the season hard against hard opponents. And when you talk about a Midwest ball club, a majority of those opening games or opening weekends or opening series are going to be in travel tournaments like outside, so Puerto Rico when we talk ISU, or they're going to be to the southeast, in this case North Carolina, right? Because the weather's nicer. And so you don't see very many opening game weekends at Michigan, in February when it's 20 degrees out there, just not great baseball weather. Can it be done? Sure. Does it have to be done? No. There's plenty of teams to play and make your schedule, be creative with your schedule. Problem with Mercer is he's too overconfident in his own ability, and he's not shown anything to demonstrate that confidence. Just look at the simple stat: hasn't won an opening day game since 2019. And so, what does that stat mean? Well, he's purposely scheduling ranked opponents to try to get a big splash win opening weekend, a series win in the first weekend, especially when the team's not ranked. I got it. That's a great thing. But you know what? We're not IU baseball 2012 through 2018 anymore. We're just not. We're middle tier Big Ten, if that. Last season we were not even that, and we're playing maybe 500 ball. And the players just aren't there. So I completely disagree with his strategy of play hard opponents early, ranked opponents, whatever. There's no such thing as a quality loss in college baseball. So, the stats are the stats, and the inability to back off of that has hurt the team. His in-game decision making, over and over again. He does not. Well, and we'll see it this season. He does not bunt. He lets guys swing away, no matter what the count is, no matter with runners left on runners in scoring position. Which is absolutely sabermetric baseball. It's not smart small ball. Which drives me crazy. And he has this innate ability to leave pitchers in too long when they've already shown signs of struggling, or what happened this weekend, pulling pitchers who aren't showing signs of struggle too early and not letting them continue. And so it's just, I'm just not a fan of the coach. I don't think he's that great. His decisions have shown time and time again that he probably needs to move on, which is unfortunate because we reloaded the team this season, and it looks, at least on paper, not the paper right now, but the preseason paper, that we were going to be a pretty decent team. But what I saw this weekend was a error-filled, indecisive, and lackluster offensive performance from the top to bottom of every game and every inning. And that's really, really disappointing to a baseball fan. We'll wrap up with ISU. What can I tell you really quickly about ISU? Well, they went 1-3, and it went exactly as I told you. We won against Manhattan, showed pretty good offensive capability, and our ace looked pretty good that first game. So we went. I think we won 10-3. So offense, putting up double-digit runs, love it. Opening game in Puerto Rico, loved it top to bottom. What did I anticipate against a ranked NC State and a ranked Wake Forest? Not going to win. And we didn't. The games we actually lost 10-1 and then 10-3. So ISU, for some reason, playing two ranked opponents also. Now, granted, it was a tournament. It's a little bit different. You sign up for the tournament. The teams may or may not be pre-ranked. You don't really know if they're going to be pre-ranked going into it, and I got it, the baseball season. Same thing with North Carolina, having been ranked 11th, we don't know going in that it was necessarily going to be ranked that high, but in the case of IU. But going into the tournament, in the Puerto Rican tournament, the list of teams that are also signing up, and if you're playing, a perennial, 4 teams in that tournament are coming from the ACC or SEC or out west, and you're the only Missouri Valley team there. You're the team that's there to like help stat pat for everybody else. So, yep, we lost. It wasn't pleasurable to listen to or watch. Hopefully, they'll be in the Bahamas next weekend for another tournament. Hopefully, we can win 2 there and move to 500 on the season. IU resumes. I've got to double check. In fact, I won't even say because I'm not. I want to say they resume back to just a normal series starting next weekend, but they did not do any type of tournament this season that I'm aware of. But I'll follow up. So that's a breakdown on IU basketball, sad IU baseball, and ISU baseball from this foxhole. As always, go IU and out here.